In this module, we will explore the social pillar of sustainability, focusing on who the people are in the food system. Farmers, ranging from traditional, organic, large-scale, small-scale, urban production, and so forth, to consumers, communities, homes, and families. As you watch this module, consider what are the similarities and differences among the people who are part of the food system.
Farmers are interested in taking care of the land, and that's something that is amazing. Obviously, we all want to produce, right? We all want to have higher yields. That's a constant, right? There and here, people want to see how they can, have bigger yields this year compared to last year or in the past. That's a constant. But I think what it brings them together is the love to the land or what they do, right? And that commitment to, producing, being part of the food system. I think also there are other things that are the love for machinery, right? That we all have. But I think is the love of, being a farmer or being involved in food system is a way of life, right? It's just not a profession. It's just you never leave it in the office, right? You do it all the time, and I think that's so parallel to what happens here and what happened in Argentina. Of course, the seasons are reversed, so that's always interesting. But I think those are the most interesting parallels. And I think the other parallel is curiosity, to try new things, to try to do it better and more efficiently. I think that's something is a parallel too.
Are there differences besides the climate differences that you mentioned? Are there?
I think there are more things that are closer than they are separate. I think that what you see in the prairies in Argentina and the United States is that we're having less and less farmers farming more and more land. That is similar. I think definitely there are differences in the politics of one country and the other, and that. But in many ways, there are more things that are very similar. And several faculty members that they tell me to come to Argentina, and there are certain areas of Argentina that you don't know whether you are in the Midwest or you are in South America. So. And again, these are the central portions of it. So is flat, is corn, soybean, wheat, and cattle. So it's similar to the Midwest.
Consumers, as they're making consumer decisions, we're making them when we are super busy. We have half an hour to hop in the supermarket and out, and we have so many other things. But a producer, that's what they're doing for a living for the most part. There are a lot of happy farmers as well, but if we're talking about the producers that are feeding us and those business, whether they are businesses or large companies or small scale farmers, this is what they do. And so they do recognize, but there is always a but, right? So the conditions, the limits of the system. So if we're talking about the food system, we usually set some boundary to understand are we talking about the food system in a city, in a country, or in the world. So there are always some limits, but there are factors outside of these limits, and these could be international trade signals, it could be wars happening elsewhere, it could be a food policy within the country or within a state or within a county. And those do affect the incentives to do one thing versus the other. And so if we observe what is happening, we might mistakenly think that maybe a producer did not see the system as a system, because they acted in a certain way. So maybe this is, we're looking at an organic farmer, say, oh, they're only focused on the biological aspect of things. Or maybe we look at a conventional farmer and think, oh my God, they're only focused on the economic side of things. That's not necessarily true. Through the nature of their business, they are dealing with trade-offs. They have objectives, and they understand consumers. They understand that they need to meet consumer need. They understand that there's transportation happening. They understand there are losses in the cold storage system that are happening between the time they produce and the time the food is making it to the consumers. They understand all of that. And so to answer your question, I do think that producers are better systems thinkers than the average consumer. But we might see it otherwise, and that's because of the incentives that consumers are giving producers and the incentives that policy is giving producers to do one thing versus the other that might make them look as if they're focused only on one aspect of things and not seeing the big picture. But that's only because of how complex things are when production and consumption are both affected by policy and by international trade and international conflict and climate change. So these provide certain incentives and disincentives to do certain things versus the other at the farming level. But I do think that producers are good systems thinkers by the nature of agriculture and how complex agriculture itself is.
Health is such, and nutrition is such a salient value and kind of concern right now. That is often central to how people, the kind of anxieties that people have around their food practices. But I would say kind of alongside that, especially within the context, say, of poverty and income inequality, right? Concerns about not being able to have enough food to be able to feed oneself and one's family, right? That's a very, crucial concern and one that is still, highly salient for, a good chunk of Americans still today.
To summarize, the social or people pillar of sustainability is critical to the food system. People have varying interests, needs, and motivations, all of which contribute to and influence the food system. One question to consider is, how do we address the complex needs of each person in the food system while attending to the global, economic, and environmental challenges of sustainability?